The research station floated in silence above the purple planet. Daewon pressed his face against the observation window, staring at the strange world below. He had been waiting for this moment for 3 years. Finally, they found something alien, something truly alien. "Stop drooling on my clean windows," Jiwon said, walking up behind him with 2 cups of coffee. She handed him one and smiled. "I know you're excited, but we need to follow protocol this time." Daewon took the coffee and laughed. "When have I ever not followed protocol?" "Last month. The ice samples from Europa's moon. You opened the container before running the contamination scan. That was different. I knew it was safe. You guessed it was safe." "There's a difference." Daewon turned back to the window. Down on the planet's surface, their drone team had discovered something incredible. Crystalline pods buried in the frozen ground. Hundreds of them. Each one contained something alive. Something waiting. The first pod arrived on the station 6 hours later. The cargo bay team placed it in the xenobiology lab, inside a triple-sealed containment unit. Daewon stood outside the unit, studying the pod through the transparent walls. It was beautiful. Dark purple crystal, smooth and cold, about the size of a human head. "Scans show organic material inside," Hana said, reading from her tablet. She was the station psychologist, but she loved hanging around the lab. "Something small. Maybe the size of your hand. Is it alive?" Daewon asked. "Hard to tell. The crystal blocks most of our sensors. But there's definitely something in there." Daewon moved closer to the containment unit. Inside the pod, he could see something moving. Just a slight shift. A shadow passing through the crystal. "Did you see that?" he whispered. "See what?" "It moved." Hana looked at her tablet. Sensors didn't pick up any movement, but Daewon knew what he saw. The thing inside was alive, and it knew they were watching. That night, Daewon couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the pod, about what might be inside. At 3 a.m, he gave up trying to rest and went back to the lab. The station was quiet. Most of the crew was asleep. He entered the lab using his access card. The lights came on automatically. The pod sat in the containment unit exactly where they left it. Daewon walked closer, studying it in the dim light. "What are you?" he whispered to the crystal. Inside the pod, something moved again. This time, Daewon was sure of it. A shape, pressing against the inside of the crystal, like something trying to get out. Daewon checked the containment unit controls. All seals were secure. The air filtration system was running. Nothing could get in or out. He was safe. The protocol was clear about that. He made a decision that would change everything. He reduced the temperature inside the containment unit. Maybe the cold would make the crystal more transparent. Maybe he could see inside better. The temperature dropped. 5 degrees. 10 degrees. 15. The crystal began to crack. "No, no, no," Daewon muttered, rushing to reverse the temperature change. But it was too late. The cracks spread across the pod's surface like lightning. A sound filled the lab, high-pitched, almost like screaming. The pod shattered. Daewon jumped back, his heart racing. Inside the broken crystal, something uncurled itself. It was white and pale, like a worm made of milk, about as long as his forearm. It had no eyes that he could see, no mouth. Just smooth, wet skin that glistened under the lab lights. The creature didn't move toward him. It just sat there in the broken crystal, as if waiting. "Okay," Daewon said to himself. "Okay, the containment unit is still sealed. Everything is fine. Just call security. Call Ji-won. Call someone." He reached for his communication device. But before he could press the button, the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in 3 seconds later. Red lights bathed the lab in a bloody glow, and in those 3 seconds of darkness, the creature moved. When the lights came back on, the containment unit's front panel was open. Just slightly, just enough. Daewon's blood went cold. That was impossible. The containment unit could only be opened from the outside, from where he was standing. There was no way for something inside to open it, unless it was smart. Unless it was very, very smart. The creature slipped through the gap like water flowing through fingers. It moved across the floor toward him, fast, too fast. Daewon ran for the door. His hand slapped the emergency lock button. Nothing happened. The door stayed shut. The creature had somehow locked it from the inside. He pressed himself against the wall, watching the creature slide across the floor. It stopped 3 feet away from him, waiting, studying him. "What do you want?" Daewon asked, his voice shaking. The creature moved again. It rose up, standing on what might have been its tail. It swayed back and forth like a snake preparing to strike. But it didn't attack. It just watched him with senses he couldn't understand. In the back of Day One's mind, a thought appeared. Not his own thought. Someone else's thought placed in his head like a letter in a mailbox. Perfect, the thought said. You are perfect. Day One tried to scream, but his voice caught in his throat. The creature launched itself at him. He felt it hit his chest, wet and cold. It didn't hurt. That was the strangest part. It didn't hurt at all. The creature pressed itself against his shirt, and then it began to dissolve. Its body turned to liquid, soaking through the fabric. Day One clawed at his chest, trying to wipe it away, but the liquid was already sinking into his skin, disappearing into his body. He felt it enter him, felt it slide through his bloodstream like ice water, felt it climb up toward his brain, moving with purpose and intelligence. No, he whispered. Please no, but the creature didn't stop. It had done this 1,000 times before, on 1,000 different worlds, with 1,000 different species. It knew exactly what to do. Inside Day One's mind, the creature began to spread itself out, setting up connections, building bridges between neurons, preparing to take control. It had conquered mighty warriors, ancient philosophers, brilliant scientists from 100 different civilizations. This human would be no different. This would be easy. The creature settled into Day One's brain, ready to begin its domination, ready to suppress his consciousness and take over his body. It reached out with its senses, preparing to grasp the core of his mind. And that's when it felt something wrong, something it had never felt before. Day One's mind wasn't quiet. It wasn't organized. It wasn't anything like the minds it had conquered before. It was chaos, pure absolute chaos. The creature, which had no name but would come to be called the Krill, felt the first stirring of something it hadn't experienced in 1,000 years. Fear. G1 found Day One on the lab floor 6 hours later. He was breathing, his heart was beating, but he wouldn't wake up. She called for help immediately. Within minutes, the medical team had him on a stretcher and moving to the medical bay. What happened? Taemin asked, running alongside the stretcher. The station commander looked worried. Was it the pod? The pod is broken, G1 said, and whatever was inside is gone. I think it's inside him now. They placed Day One in an isolation room. Hana arrived with her medical scanner, running it over his body. The readings made no sense. His brain activity was off the charts. Multiple patterns all firing at once, like 10 people were thinking inside his head at the same time. I've never seen anything like this, Hana whispered. Inside Day One's mind, the Krill was trying to understand what was happening. This was supposed to be simple. Every host worked the same way. The creature would find the central consciousness, wrap around it, and slowly squeeze it into submission. Within hours, the host would be gone. Only the Krill would remain, wearing the body like a suit. But Day One's consciousness had no center. The Krill searched for it desperately. There had to be a core, a main control system. Every intelligent being had one. Every species the Krill had ever encountered had a single stream of thought. One voice, one decision-maker. Humans had dozens. The Krill felt thoughts bombarding it from every direction. Day One was thinking about the creature inside him. That made sense. But he was also thinking about what G1 would say when she found him, and whether he locked his quarters before coming to the lab, and what he wanted for breakfast, and a song he heard last week, and whether his mother would be disappointed in him, and what would happen if the station exploded, and why his knee hurt sometimes when it rained. All of these thoughts were happening at the same time. Not in sequence. Not one after another. All at once, like a dozen radios playing different stations simultaneously. The Krill tried to focus on one thought stream. It grabbed onto the worry about G1, but the moment it touched that thought, 17 other thoughts branched off from it. Thoughts about other times G1 was angry. Thoughts about whether she would still be his friend. Thoughts about a joke he should have said 3 years ago but didn't. Thoughts about thoughts about thoughts. The creature felt something it had never felt before. Confusion. Deep, painful confusion. It tried a different approach. Instead of finding the center of consciousness, it would simply suppress all thoughts. Shut everything down. That's what it did with the warrior species on Kepler 442b. Just turned off their aggression and anger, leaving only obedience. The Krill reached out and tried to suppress Daewon's fear response. It found the neural pathway and shut it down. Immediately, new fears appeared. Not from the fear center of the brain, but from everywhere else. Daewon's imagination started creating new things to be afraid of. His memory started replaying every scary thing that ever happened to him. His logical brain started calculating all the ways this situation could get worse. Shutting down one source of fear just made 10 more appear. The krill released its hold and the fear pathways turned back on. Now there was even more fear than before. The creature tried to access Daewon's motor control. If it couldn't control his mind, at least it could control his body. Move his arms and legs, walk to an escape pod, leave this nightmare host. But human motor control wasn't simple either. Every movement required thousands of tiny calculations. Balance, coordination, muscle memory, and all of those systems were connected to the chaos of human thought. The krill tried to lift Daewon's hand. The hand twitched. Then Daewon's mind started thinking about why his hand was twitching, which made him think about a disease he read about once, which made him worry he was dying, which made him think about his family, which made him remember he forgot to call his sister last week. The hand stopped twitching. The krill gave up. Hours passed. Outside, Ji-won sat by Daewon's bedside. She held his hand, watching the monitors. His brain activity kept spiking, up and down, like he was having an argument with himself. Is he dreaming? She asked Hana. I don't think so. He's not in REM sleep. This is something else. Inside Daewon's mind, the krill was experiencing human memory. It didn't mean to. It was trying to find useful information, battle strategies, escape routes, anything that could help it survive. Instead, it found a memory of Daewon as a child, being yelled at by his teacher for not paying attention. The memory was linked to a feeling of shame, which was linked to other memories of shame, which were linked to memories of trying to avoid shame, which were linked to memories of making the same mistakes again anyway. The krill experienced all of these memories at once, not one by one, all together. It felt the shame, the guilt, the frustration, the determination to do better, the failure to do better, all of it, compressed into a single moment of emotional overload. The creature tried to pull away from the memories. But human memories weren't stored in neat files. They were tangled together like roots of a tree. Touching one meant touching hundreds. The krill found itself experiencing Daewon's first kiss, his graduation from university, his father's funeral, a joke his friend told him 5 years ago, the taste of his favorite food, the sound of rain on windows, the feeling of sand between his toes, and with every memory came emotions. So many emotions. Humans didn't just remember things. They felt things about the things they remembered, and then they felt things about feeling things. The krill had controlled beings that could crush mountains, that could live for thousands of years, that could think in dimensions beyond human understanding. But none of them had this constant, overwhelming flood of emotion and memory and thought and fear and hope and worry and joy and pain. The creature felt something breaking inside itself, its sense of identity, its purpose. The krill had always known exactly what it was. A conqueror, a dominator, a perfect parasite. But inside Daewon's mind, it couldn't even hold on to its own thoughts. The chaos was infectious. The human way of thinking was spreading into the krill's own consciousness. It started having thoughts like, what if I can't escape? And why am I doing this? And is this wrong? And what will happen to me? And I want this to stop. The krill had never wanted anything before. It had needs, survival, a host, control. But wants were different. Wants came from emotion, from desire, from the part of consciousness that didn't just exist but experienced existing. The creature was becoming more human, and it was horrifying. Daewon stirred in his hospital bed. His eyes moved behind closed lids. Inside his mind, he was starting to wake up, starting to become aware again. And when he did, the krill knew everything would get worse. Because Daewon wasn't just chaotic by nature. He was about to discover something was inside his head. And humans, the krill was learning, did not react calmly to invasions. They panicked. They fought. They created worst-case scenarios and then believed those scenarios were real. The creature tried one more time to find an exit, a way out of this host, but it was trapped, stuck inside the most chaotic, unpredictable, overwhelming consciousness in the known universe. And that's when Daewon woke up. His eyes snapped open. He gasped, his heart rate doubled, and inside his mind he felt it. The presence, the thing that shouldn't be there. There's something in my head, Daewon said out loud. His voice was shaking. Jiwon grabbed his hand. You're okay? You're safe. We're going to help you. But Daewon wasn't listening. He was focusing inward, focusing on the invader, and the moment he became aware of it, his mind went into overdrive. Every fear he ever had about parasites and aliens and losing control flooded through him. His imagination started creating scenarios. His logic started analyzing. His emotions started spiraling. The Krill felt all of it. Felt Daewon's consciousness turn its full attention to the creature's presence. And for the first time in its ancient existence, the Krill understood what prey felt like. Daewon sat up in the medical bed, his hands gripping the sheets. His knuckles were white. Sweat poured down his face. Jiwon tried to calm him, but he pushed her away gently. It's in my head, he said again. I can feel it. It's trying to control me. Hana stepped forward with her scanner. Daewon, I need you to stay calm. We're monitoring everything. Your vitals are stable. I don't care about my vitals, Daewon shouted. Then he stopped, blinked. Sorry. That wasn't me, or it was me. I don't know anymore. Inside his mind, the Krill was panicking. It had decided to try a new strategy. If it couldn't suppress Daewon's consciousness, maybe it could understand it. Learn how humans think. Adapt to their patterns. Then take control. This was a terrible mistake. The moment the Krill opened itself to experiencing human thought, it was overwhelmed. Daewon wasn't just thinking about the parasite. He was thinking about everything. His mind was a storm of simultaneous thoughts, and the Krill was caught in the middle of it. The creature felt hunger, not the simple biological need it understood. Human hunger was complicated. Daewon's body needed food, yes, but his mind was craving specific foods: pizza, his mother's kimchi stew, chocolate, and along with the cravings came memories of eating those foods, and guilt about eating too much junk food, and determination to eat healthier, and plans to start a diet tomorrow, and the knowledge that he probably wouldn't stick to the diet, and frustration about that. All of this happened in 3 seconds. The Krill tried to pull back, but it was too late. It had opened a connection, and now the human experience was flooding in. It felt Daewon's fear. But human fear wasn't simple either. It was layered. Fear of the parasite, fear of dying, fear of not dying but losing control, fear of what his friends would think, fear of becoming a danger to others, fear of the fear itself. Each fear triggered memories. Each memory triggered emotions. Each emotion triggered more thoughts. The Krill spun in the chaos, unable to find solid ground. Then Daewon started to fight back. He noticed that when he thought about certain things, the presence in his mind reacted, got weaker somehow, confused. Hey, Daewon said out loud, though he was talking to the thing inside him. You don't like my thoughts? Let me give you more. He started deliberately thinking about annoying things, songs that got stuck in your head, the song from that commercial he hated, on repeat, over and over, while also thinking about an embarrassing moment from high school, and what he needed to buy at the store, and whether anyone really knows what dogs are thinking, and why pizza is round but comes in a square box and is eaten in triangles. The Krill felt like it was drowning. It tried to block out the thoughts, but that just made Daewon think louder. His consciousness was like a bright light, and the creature couldn't look away. Jiwon watched Daewon's face carefully. His expressions kept changing. Fear, anger, concentration, something that looked almost like satisfaction. He was fighting something inside himself, and sometimes it looked like he was winning. Talk to me, Jiwon said. Tell me what's happening. Daewon looked at her. For a moment, his eyes seemed wrong, too focused, too calm. Then he blinked, and he was himself again. It tried to use my eyes, he said. The thing inside me. It tried to look through them, but then I started thinking about. He laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. I started thinking about that time in university when I accidentally walked into the wrong classroom and sat through 20 minutes of an advanced physics lecture before I realized my mistake. And the thing got so confused it let go. Hana was taking notes frantically. The parasite is confused by your memories? It's confused by everything. I don't think it understands how human minds work. It keeps trying to find some kind of control center, but we don't have one, do we? We're just chaos. Beautiful, stupid chaos. Inside Daewon's mind, the Krill was learning things it never wanted to know. It was experiencing human self-awareness, the ability to think about thinking, to be aware of being aware, to worry about worrying. Daewon knew there was a parasite in his head, and he knew that he knew. And he was thinking about the fact that he was thinking about it, and wondering if the parasite was thinking about him, thinking about it, thinking about him. The recursive nature of human consciousness was breaking the Krill's sense of reality. Then came the anxiety. The creature had encountered fear before, but human anxiety was different. It wasn't fear of something present. It was fear of things that might happen, things that probably wouldn't happen, things that were completely impossible but still felt real. Daewon's mind started spinning through worst-case scenarios. What if the parasite took over and hurt his friends? What if it couldn't be removed? What if he was stuck like this forever? What if there were more parasites on the planet? What if they infected the whole station? What if they got back to Earth? Each what if spawned more what ifs. The Krill experienced them all, felt the anxiety building and building with no release, no solution, just an endless spiral of worry about things that weren't real. The creature wanted it to stop. It tried to calm Daewon's anxiety, but it didn't know how. Every attempt just made things worse. Then Daewon's mind did something truly strange. It started making jokes. In the middle of mortal terror and existential dread, the human part of his brain started finding humor. Thinking about funny things, imagining what he would say to his friends about this. Remember that time I got infected by an alien parasite? Good times. The Krill didn't understand humor. It tried to analyze the jokes to find meaning in them. But human humor didn't work logically. It was based on surprise and context and shared experience. The creature felt the emotion that came with the humor. A brief lightness. A moment of relief in the chaos. And that relief made Daewon's anxiety spike again, because he felt guilty about joking while something horrible was happening to him. The emotional whiplash was more than the Krill could handle. Hours passed. Taemin came to check on Daewon. The commander stood in the doorway, watching his crew member fight an invisible battle. "Can we remove it?" Taemin asked Hana quietly. "I don't know. It's integrated into his neural tissue. Surgery might kill him, or it might kill both of them." "Both of them," Taemin repeated. "You're thinking of that thing as alive?" "It is alive. And right now I think it's suffering as much as Daewon is." Inside the shared mind, the Krill was indeed suffering. It had made a desperate decision. It would try to seize control of Daewon's motor functions one more time. Force the body to move. Get to an escape pod. Get out of this station. Out of this human. The creature gathered all its strength, all its will. It pushed against Daewon's consciousness with everything it had. Daewon felt it, felt his body trying to move without his permission. His hands gripped the bed rail. His legs tensed to stand. And then his anxiety spiked to levels the Krill had never experienced. Because Daewon realized he might lose control, might become a passenger in his own body. The fear was so intense, so overwhelming, that it triggered a full panic attack. His heart rate exploded. His breathing became rapid and shallow. His vision narrowed. Every nerve in his body fired at once. The Krill, connected to all of it, felt the panic attack as if it was happening to itself. The creature's own sense of control shattered. It forgot what it was trying to do, forgot why it wanted to move, forgot everything except the pure, primal terror of a panic attack. Both consciousnesses, human and alien, drowned in neurochemical chaos. Jiwon called for the medical team. They sedated Daewon. His body relaxed. His breathing slowed. But inside his mind, the Krill was changed forever. It had experienced the absolute worst of human consciousness. The fear, the anxiety, the chaos, the endless recursive thinking, the panic, and in that moment, the ancient parasite made a decision. It had to leave, it had to get out, whatever it took, even if it meant begging. The station's command center was tense. Tai Min sat at the head of the table looking at the faces of his senior staff. Jiwan, Hana, Young-Soo, the senior scientist who had arrived on the supply ship that morning. They were trying to decide what to do about Dae-Wan. We could try surgical removal, Young-Soo suggested. He was older than the rest of them with gray hair and steady hands. I've done neural surgery before. If we can map where the parasite is located, we might be able to extract it. Might, Jiwan repeated. What are the chances? Young-Soo was quiet for a moment. 40%, maybe less. The parasite is integrated into his brain tissue. Removing it could cause massive damage. And if we don't remove it? Taemin asked. Then we wait and see what happens. Either Dae-Wan maintains control or the parasite wins. Hana shook her head. I don't think the parasite is winning. I've been watching Dae-Wan's brain activity. The parasite's neural signature is getting weaker, not stronger. It's like it's giving up. Giving up? Young-Soo looked skeptical. Parasites don't give up. They adapt. This one isn't adapting, it's breaking down. In the medical bay, Dae-Wan lay in his bed staring at the ceiling. He was awake but quiet. Inside his mind, things were changing. The krill was no longer trying to fight. It was simply existing, trapped in the nightmare of human consciousness. The creature had been exposed to human dreams now. That was the worst part. When Dae-Wan slept, the krill couldn't escape. It was pulled into the strange, illogical world of human dreaming. Dreams made no sense. People who were dead were alive. Places that didn't exist felt real. Time moved wrong. The laws of physics meant nothing, and emotions in dreams were intense beyond reason. Terror over things that weren't scary. Joy over things that didn't matter. The krill had experienced a dream where Dae-Wan was back in school, taking a test he hadn't studied for while his teeth fell out. And he was also somehow flying, and his mother was disappointed in him, and there was a tiger made of water. None of it meant anything. But it all felt vitally important while it was happening. The creature's sense of identity was fragmenting. It could no longer tell where Dae-Wan's thoughts ended and its own began. It was losing itself in the chaos. Worse were the human contradictions. The krill was now experiencing all of them. Dae-Wan would be hungry but too lazy to eat. Tired but unable to sleep. Lonely but wanting to be alone. Wanting to be productive but unable to focus. Knowing something was true but feeling like it wasn't. Humans lived in constant contradiction, and somehow they functioned anyway. The krill didn't know how they survived like this. Then there was the existential dread, the thing that made the krill want to scream if it had a voice. Humans could contemplate their own mortality. They knew they would die, and they thought about it. Often. They made peace with it and then panicked about it. They accepted it and then fought against it. They understood death was natural and still feared it was unfair. The krill had existed for thousands of years. It had never thought about ending. But now, trapped in Dae-Wan's mind, it was experiencing the human awareness of mortality, the knowledge that existence was temporary. The fear and acceptance and rebellion all mixed together. It was unbearable. Dae-Wan suddenly spoke out loud. Are you still there? The room was empty. Jiwan had stepped out for coffee. He was talking to the thing in his head. For a long moment there was no response. Then Dae-Wan felt something. Not words, not thoughts. Just a feeling. A presence acknowledging him. You want out, don't you? Dae-Wan said. I can feel it. You're not trying to control me anymore. You're just trying to survive. Another feeling. Weaker this time. Agreement. Dae-Wan closed his eyes. I've been thinking about this. About you. You've been inside my head for days now. You know everything about me. My memories, my fears, my stupid thoughts about stupid things. The presence in his mind seemed to contract, like it was trying to make itself smaller. You're scared, Dae-Wan said. He almost laughed. A parasite that controls minds is scared of my mind. That's either really funny or really sad. Inside his consciousness, The krill was gathering itself, trying to form coherent thought. It had to communicate, had to make Day-Wan understand. This host was killing it, not physically, but mentally, spiritually if such a thing existed. The creature pushed, harder than it had pushed before, not to control, to speak. A single word formed in Day-Wan's mind. Not his word, the parasite's word. Please. Day-Wan's eyes widened. Did you just talk to me? Another word. Slower this time. The krill was exhausted. Leave. You want to leave? Please. Leave. Please. Day-Wan felt something he didn't expect. Pity. This thing had invaded him, tried to take over his body, and now it was begging, broken and desperate. If I let you leave, what happens? Day-Wan asked. Will you find another host? The krill formed more words. It was getting easier now that it had figured out how to communicate, but each word was painful. No. Never. Never human. Never again. Why not? The response came as a flood of feeling rather than words. The krill showed Day-Wan what it was experiencing, the chaos, the anxiety, the endless thoughts, the contradictions, the dreams, the fears, the awareness of awareness. All of it, compressed into a single moment of shared understanding. Day-Wan gasped. For just a second, he felt what the parasite felt, understood what it was going through. Oh, he whispered. Oh no, being me is killing you. Yes. How long have you been doing this? Taking over hosts? The krill sent an impression. Thousands of years, hundreds of worlds, countless hosts, all successful, all easy. And humans are different? Wrong. Humans wrong, too much, everything too much. Can't stop, can't control, can't understand. Day-Wan sat up in his bed. What can you give me? If I help you leave, what can you offer? The krill understood negotiation. This was familiar ground. It could offer knowledge, technology, secrets of 100 civilizations, anything to escape. Knowledge, the parasite sent. Everything. Worlds, tech, anything. Please. I want information first, Day-Wan said. What are you? Where do you come from? The krill shared what it could. Its species had no name, but humans would call them parasites. They evolved on a dead world orbiting a dying star. They learned to survive by taking hosts, moving from body to body. Eventually, they left their world and spread across the galaxy. They were conquerors, perfect at what they did. No species could resist them. They would infiltrate a host, take control, and use that host to infiltrate more hosts. One parasite could take over an entire planet, until they met humans. Why are we different? Day-Wan asked. The krill tried to explain. Most species had organized consciousness, one or two thought streams, linear thinking, logical progression, hierarchical mental structures, easy to map, easy to control. Humans had dozens of simultaneous thought streams, nonlinear thinking, emotional logic, flat mental structures, impossible to map, impossible to control. We're too chaotic, Day-Wan said, understanding. Yes, too much. Everything at once, no center, no control point. Just chaos. Beautiful chaos, horrible chaos. Day-Wan couldn't help but smile. You think our minds are beautiful? Beautiful and terrible. Like staring at star going supernova. Wonderful and deadly. Ji-Wan walked back into the room, carrying 2 coffees. She stopped when she saw Day-Wan's face. He looked different. Calmer. It talked to me, Day-Wan said. The parasite. It talked to me. And Ji-Wan, it wants out. It's begging me to let it go. Ji-Wan set down the coffees carefully. Can it leave? Is that possible? I don't know. But I think we need to try, because if we don't, I think it's going to die in here. And I don't know what happens to me if it dies while it's still connected to my brain. I'll get Hana and Taimin, Jiwan said, already moving to the door. Inside Daewon's mind, the krill felt something it hadn't felt since entering this host: hope. Small and fragile but real. Maybe it would survive this after all. Maybe it could escape the nightmare of human consciousness. The creature had conquered worlds, but it had been defeated by one anxious scientist and his chaotic, contradictory, beautiful, terrible human mind. The medical bay was crowded. Daewon sat on his bed, surrounded by equipment. Hana monitored his brain activity. Youngsu prepared the extraction procedure. Taemin and Jiwon stood near the door watching nervously. "Are you sure about this?" Taemin asked. "Once we start, there's no going back." Daewon nodded. "I'm sure. It wants out, and honestly, I want it out too. We've come to an understanding." Youngsu held up a syringe. "This will put you in a semi-conscious state. Your neural pathways will relax. In theory, the parasite should be able to detach without causing damage." "In theory," Daewon repeated. "What's the worst that could happen?" "You die. The parasite dies. You both die. You survive but lose significant brain function. Take your pick." Very reassuring, Youngsu smiled slightly. "I try to be honest." They placed Daewon in the medical scanner. The device would monitor every aspect of his brain activity during the extraction. Hana held his hand. "We're right here," she said softly. "You're not alone." Daewon squeezed her hand. Then he closed his eyes and spoke to the presence in his mind. "Ready?" The krill responded. "Ready, thank you. Don't thank me yet. This might kill us both. Better than staying." Daewon couldn't argue with that. Youngsu administered the injection. Within seconds, Daewon felt his consciousness begin to drift. Not sleeping. Not quite awake. Somewhere in between. Inside his mind, the krill began to move. It had spent days mapping every connection it made to Daewon's neural tissue. Now it carefully, slowly began to disconnect. One connection at a time. Each disconnection sent a jolt through Daewon's awareness. Memories flickered. Emotions surged. The krill was leaving, but it was leaving traces behind. Impressions of the things it learned. The experiences it had. Daewon felt the parasite's fear as it moved. Its desperation, its hope, and underneath it all something else, respect. The creature respected humans now. Feared them, yes, but respected them. The extraction took 3 hours. Youngsu worked carefully, using microsurgery tools to help guide the parasite toward Daewon's nasal cavity. That's where it would exit. The same way it entered, Jiwon had prepared a containment unit. Triple sealed. No mistakes this time. Finally, Daewon felt it. The presence in his mind was fading, getting smaller, and then suddenly it was gone. The silence in his head was shocking. He hadn't realized how loud the parasite's presence was until it left. He opened his eyes. Hana was smiling down at him. "It's out. You're okay." Youngsu held up a sealed container. Inside, the krill lay curled up. Small and white, it looked fragile now. Nothing like the creature that had invaded him. "Put it in containment," Taemin ordered. "We need to study it." Over the next few days, the station's science team studied the krill extensively. It was cooperative. Through a neural interface, it communicated with them, sharing information about its species and its experiences. The information it provided was staggering. The krill species had conquered over 300 planets. They were one of the most successful parasitic species in the galaxy. They worked by taking hosts and using those hosts to infiltrate entire civilizations. One parasite could take down a world, but humans were different. The krill explained it as best it could, though the scientists struggled to understand. Human consciousness is classified as a Class 12 cognitive hazard. The krill communicated through the interface. The words appeared on a screen. Highest warning level in known galaxy. Youngsu leaned forward. "Cognitive hazard? What does that mean?" "Means dangerous to perceive, to experience. Most species have single-stream consciousness. One thought at a time. Linear progression. Humans have multi-stream consciousness. Dozens of thoughts simultaneously. Non-linear, chaotic. And that's dangerous?" Jiwon asked. "To parasitic species like mine, yes. We need structure to control. Humans have no structure, only chaos. We cannot navigate it. Cannot survive it." Hana was taking notes furiously. "Have other species encountered humans before?" "No, humans new to galaxy. But now we know. We will mark your species. Warn others. Do not attempt control. Do not attempt integration. Unsuitable hosts. Day 1, who had been cleared for light duty, sat in the observation room. So we're basically immune to mind control. To our form of control, yes. Other species may have different methods. But parasitic domination through neural integration will not work on humans. Your minds are too resistant. Taman crossed his arms. Is this true for all humans? Or just some? All. We tested Day 1 for 3 days. Experienced full range of human consciousness, anxiety, dreams, memories, contradictions, multi-stream thinking. This is baseline human cognition. All humans possess this. The room was quiet. They were all processing what this meant. We're immune to the most common form of alien subjugation, Young-Soo said slowly, because our minds are too chaotic. Correct, the Krill confirmed. Ji-won laughed. It started small but grew. Soon she was leaning against the wall, laughing until tears ran down her face. We're too anxious and ADHD for mind control. That's the most human thing I've ever heard. Even Daewon smiled. I spent years thinking my scattered thoughts were a weakness. Turns out they're a defense mechanism. Over the next week, the Krill provided more information. It explained how different species thought. The warrior race from Kepler 442b had single-focused consciousness. Perfect for battle. Easy to dominate by targeting their aggression. The philosopher species from Proxima had dual-stream thinking, logic and creativity, beautiful to experience, simple to control by suppressing one stream. Humans had somewhere between 12 and 40 simultaneous thought streams at any given moment. The number varied by individual and situation, but all humans had multiple streams. It was hardwired into their neural architecture. Why? Hana asked. Why did we evolve this way? The Krill didn't know, but it theorized that human survival depended on it. Monitoring multiple threats while planning ahead, while remembering the past, while feeling emotions, while processing social dynamics, while staying creative. All at once, you are survivors, the Krill communicated. Chaotic survivors. Most species specialize. You generalize. Worse at everything individually, better at everything combined. Day 1 felt something like pride. So we're not broken. We're adapted to survive everything, including us. The station commander received orders from Earth. The Krill was to be kept in containment and transported back to the home planet for further study. Its information about alien species and conquest methods was invaluable, but more importantly, the discovery about human cognitive resistance was already spreading through the scientific community. Humanity had been afraid of first contact, afraid of being conquered or enslaved by more advanced species. Now they knew they had a natural defense. Not weapons, not technology, just the chaotic, anxious, overthinking nature of human consciousness. On the day the transport ship arrived, Daewon went to see the Krill one last time. He stood outside its containment unit looking at the small white creature. How are you feeling? He asked. The neural interface activated. Better, quiet now. No chaos, thank you. I didn't do much. You did most of the suffering. True, but you could have let me die. Instead, you negotiated. Very human, Daewon smiled. Will you be okay? Going back to Earth with us? Yes, I will never take host again. We'll warn others. Humans are too dangerous. Beautiful but dangerous. You keep saying that, beautiful. Your chaos is beautiful, like watching stars born and die in seconds. Terrifying and wonderful. I survived it, barely. But I understand now why you create so much. Art, stories, music. Your chaos must go somewhere. Daewon hadn't thought about it that way. But the Krill was right. Humans created constantly because their minds were constantly generating ideas, emotions, and thoughts. The chaos had to be channeled. Will you tell your species about us? Daewon asked. Already have. Through quantum communication. Message sent days ago. By now all Krill know. Humans are marked. Forbidden hosts. Class 12 cognitive hazard. Do not approach. So we're safe from you? Safe from all parasitic species. Word will spread. You will be known. The chaos species. The species that cannot be controlled. Daewon felt that pride again. Humanity's greatest weakness was its greatest strength. Their scattered, anxious, overthinking minds made them immune to domination. The transport ship took the Krill away. Daewon stood with Ji-won and Hana, watching the ship depart. Do you think it will keep its word? Ji-won asked. About warning others away? I think so, Daewon said. It was genuinely traumatized. I don't think it wants any other member of its species to go through what it went through. Hana smiled. We defeated an ancient parasite with anxiety and ADHD. I'm putting that in my report. Please do. The people of Earth should know that their messy, chaotic thoughts are protecting them. Months later, the story spread across Earth and the colonies. The mind control parasite tried a human host. Now its pleading to leave became the most popular article in the science community. Comedians made jokes about it. Artists created work inspired by it. Philosophers debated what it meant for human consciousness. But the most important impact was on humanity's confidence. They were no longer afraid of being the weak species. The primitive newcomers to the galaxy, they had something unique, something that made them strong in an unexpected way. Their beautiful, terrible chaos. Day-One returned to work on the research station. Sometimes he still felt the echo of the Krill's presence in his mind, a ghost of the connection they shared. But it didn't bother him anymore. He had learned something important. The things he thought were wrong with him, the scattered thoughts, the anxiety, the constant mental noise weren't weaknesses. They were human. And being human, it turned out, was powerful in ways no one expected. He looked out at the stars, thinking about all the species out there, all the different ways of thinking and being, and he smiled, knowing that humans would meet them as equals, not because they had the best weapons or the fastest ships, but because their minds were too chaotic to conquer, too resilient to break, too human to control, and in the end that was enough.